Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world where strength isn't proven by dominance, but by the quiet courage to make space where love isn't a battlefield, but a dance of mutual respect. Yet today, countless men are silently suffocating under the weight of expectations. They don't know how to escape craving connection, but unsure how to ask for it. Have you ever tried hugging a cactus? That's what it feels like to love without being allowed to lead or breathe. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just another let men be men monologue, pause, because what if the very thing you're doing to show love is what's driving him away? What if stepping back isn't giving up power, but unlocking a kind of intimacy most people never get to experience? There's a reason why so many relationships collapse, not from conflict, but from confusion, and by the end of this talk, you'll see why understanding this one shift could be the difference between being adored or merely tolerated. In every relationship, space is often misunderstood. Many believe giving space means creating distance, losing intimacy, or being less involved. But in truth, space is not about absence, it's about presence without pressure. It's a quiet, invisible gift that says, I trust you enough to let you be. When you give a man space, you're not pushing him away. You're showing him that your love doesn't come with handcuffs. You're telling him that he can breathe around you. That's powerful, because nothing suffocates love faster than the fear of losing one's identity within it. Men are wired differently. Their emotional world often moves in cycles of closeness and solitude. They may lean in with intensity, then pull back to process. This isn't rejection, it's recalibration. It's in the moments of pulling back that they reflect, recenter, and regain their sense of self. But when their retreat is met with panic, interrogation, or control, they start to associate closeness with discomfort. What was meant to be love starts to feel like pressure, and pressure, over time, breeds resistance. Many women, intelligent, compassionate, deeply loving, try to hold the relationship together by holding tighter. They want to talk it out, fix it now, close the emotional distance immediately. That impulse comes from care, but it's often received as control. And control, even when it's sugar-coated with good intentions, makes men feel inadequate, trapped, or like they've lost their freedom. When a man feels controlled, even subtly, his instinct is not to lean in, but to pull further away. And the more he pulls away, the more desperate the partner becomes. It's a cycle that quickly spirals into confusion, resentment, and disconnect. Respect is born in the space between two individuals. It's the room that allows someone to choose you freely, not out of obligation, but out of desire. When a man feels respected, he becomes more open, more connected, and more committed. That respect isn't just in the big gestures. It's in the silent moments when you choose not to micromanage his time, when you don't demand explanations for every quiet mood, when you resist the urge to constantly seek reassurance. It's in trusting that his love is still present, even when his words are few. This doesn't mean disappearing or becoming passive. It means learning to balance your emotional needs with his natural rhythms. It means understanding that your strength doesn't come from being constantly in control, but from knowing when to step forward and when to step back. When you give him space, you're not losing influence, you're increasing it. Because now his movement toward you becomes his choice, not his chore. Think of it like holding a butterfly in your hand. Grip it tightly and you'll crush it. Keep your palm open, and it may choose to stay longer than you expected. Love is not a possession. It's a dynamic, living force that needs air, not captivity. A man who feels free within a relationship doesn't run from it, he runs toward it. Because now that relationship becomes a place of peace, not pressure. A sanctuary, not a stage where he constantly has to perform. Control can take many forms. It can sound like, "Where are you going? Why didn't you call? Why don't you open up more? Why aren't you more like?" These questions may come from a place of insecurity or longing, but they land like silent accusations. Over time, these subtle jabs chip away at a man's sense of self. He starts to guard his thoughts. He filters his words. He walks on eggshells, not out of love, but out of fear of triggering disappointment. And once fear enters a relationship, love starts to suffocate. True power in love is quiet. It's not loud declarations or constant reminders. It's the confidence to allow someone to be themselves without needing to mold them into your image. When you step back, you allow the man to step forward. You invite him into leadership, responsibility, and emotional growth. You're not abandoning him, you're trusting him. That trust speaks louder than any demand ever could. It says, I see you, I believe in you, and I don't need to manage you to feel secure. It's a paradox. By doing less, you often gain more. By letting go, you draw him closer, and in that space, love breathes. It expands, it deepens, because finally, he's not being loved for what he does, how quickly he responds, or how perfectly he fits a role, but for who he is when no one's watching. That kind of love doesn't fade. It roots itself in something real, something unspoken, something sacred. And it all begins with the courage to give space, not to lose love, but to let it grow. Men are built with a deep, almost primal drive for purpose. It's not just about ambition or career, it's about meaning. Men feel most alive, most connected, and most emotionally grounded when they are working towards something they believe matters. Whether it's building a business, protecting their family, solving a problem, or mastering a skill, this sense of purpose becomes their emotional anchor. It defines their value, shapes their identity, and fuels their actions. Without purpose, a man feels lost. And when he's lost, he becomes emotionally unavailable, reactive, or distant, not because he doesn't care, but because he's disconnected from the very thing that makes him feel like himself. In relationships, this creates a subtle but powerful dynamic. Many women crave connection through communication, vulnerability, and emotional closeness. They want to talk things out, feel seen, and experience consistent emotional availability. These desires are valid and beautiful, but when they're imposed as expectations rather than invitations, they can feel like pressure. Pressure to talk before he's ready. Pressure to feel what he hasn't processed. Pressure to respond on command, even when his mind is tangled in silent chaos. And the more pressure he feels, the more he retreats, not out of spite, but self-preservation. Men don't connect through pressure. They may comply for a while, go through the motions, nod, say the right things, but their heart isn't in it. The more you press, the more they pretend. The more they pretend, the more you feel unseen. And so begins a cycle of unmet needs, rising resentment, and mutual confusion. He wonders why nothing he does is enough. You wonder why he's always emotionally absent. And both of you miss the truth sitting quietly between the lines. He's not disconnected from you, he's disconnected from his purpose. When a man feels purposeful, he brings that strength into every area of his life, including love. He becomes generous, driven, grounded, and emotionally available, not because he's been pressured into it, but because he wants to be. Purpose aligns him with his best self. It gives him the fuel to show up fully, with clarity and confidence. He starts seeing you not as someone demanding more from him, but as someone walking beside him, witnessing his journey, honoring his process. That kind of connection is deeper than words. It's built on shared vision, respect, and trust. This is why trying to extract emotions from a man who hasn't found or reconnected with his purpose often leads to frustration. It's like trying to draw water from a dry well. You can demand, question, or cry, but the emotional resources just aren't there. Not because he's heartless, but because he's empty. He doesn't need more pressure. He needs direction. He needs to feel that what he's doing matters, that he's building towards something worthwhile, that his presence in your life isn't just filling space, but serving meaning. A man in his purpose doesn't need to be reminded to love you. His love shows up naturally in how he listens, how he protects, how he supports, how he creates space for you to be fully yourself. He's not performing a role, he's embodying his truth. And that truth pulls you both closer in ways pressure never could. It's the difference between forced affection and fearless connection. This doesn't mean you should tolerate neglect or silence. It means recognizing that timing, tone, and trust matter. Asking a man to open up when he's in a fog is like asking someone to run while they're still learning to walk. But when you honor his process, when you express your needs with clarity, But without coercion, you create a safe emotional environment. You stop being a source of pressure and become a source of peace. And peace is what gives a man the freedom to reconnect with his purpose and then with you. Connection for men is an outcome, not a requirement. It's what naturally follows when their inner world is aligned. They connect when they feel strong, not when they feel forced. They open when they feel respected, not when they feel rushed. They share when they feel safe, not when they feel judged. And that's where your power lies, not in pushing him to feel more, but in believing that he will when he's able to find himself again. So the question isn't, how do I make him talk more? It's, what is he fighting for? What lights him up? What pain is he processing quietly? When you see past the silence and into the story, you shift your role from critic to companion. You stop managing him and start understanding him. And in that understanding, something incredible happens, not just connection, but devotion. Not just attention, but presence. Because now he's not just showing up for you, he's showing up as the man he wants to be. And that's the kind of love that doesn't have to be chased, explained, or begged for. It just is. Masculine energy is not something that can be forced, manufactured, or demanded. It arises naturally when there is space for it to thrive. The concept of stepping back might feel counterintuitive to many who believe that love and connection require constant attention, engagement, and involvement. However, by stepping back, you create the very conditions that allow a man's masculine energy to step forward. This is not about diminishing your role or retreating from your own desires. It's about giving him the freedom to rise, to find strength in his own path, and to feel empowered to lead when he's ready. In relationships, there's often a dynamic where one partner feels compelled to be the emotional leader, to solve problems, or to take charge of every situation. While this may come from a place of care and love, it inadvertently steals away the opportunity for the other person to step into their own power. For men, their masculine energy is intrinsically linked to their sense of purpose, autonomy, and ability to lead. These aren't just traits they perform, they are core to who they are. When they are not given the space to lead, to think independently, or to make decisions, they begin to feel emasculated. Their desire to protect, provide, and support gets suffocated under a veil of expectations that they must constantly prove their worth through action without being allowed to stand in their own strength. Masculine energy is about taking initiative, being decisive, and feeling a sense of ownership in one's life. It is about the ability to conquer challenges, not by external force, but by inner clarity and resilience. But when a relationship is constantly micromanaged, or when every move is scrutinized and planned, that energy diminishes. It's like a plant that's overwatered, while the intention is to nurture. The excessive attention stifles growth. Stepping back in this sense is not a passive act. It's an active choice to allow space for that energy to be fully expressed. For many men, the most powerful act of love they can experience is to be trusted with the freedom to be themselves. When a woman steps back, when she allows him the room to make decisions without constant intervention, it signals to him that she believes in his strength. She is no longer trying to fix, change, or manage him. Instead, she is inviting him into his full power. This is a profound act of respect. It shows him that you value his individuality, his strength, and his autonomy, not just his ability to meet your needs or desires. It gives him the emotional space to feel capable without the pressure to meet unrealistic expectations. Men need that room to step into their masculine power because it is often built on the foundations of personal achievement and self-sufficiency. In a relationship, when a man is not permitted the space to navigate his challenges or explore his ideas freely, he begins to feel that his worth is tied only to his ability to perform within the structure set by his partner. This kind of environment stifles his growth and diminishes his confidence. It becomes harder for him to access that inner well of strength that is crucial for feeling empowered in a relationship. When you step back, you release him from these invisible chains, allowing him to find his own path to connection, to grow in his own way, and to rise as the man he is meant to be. Stepping back doesn't mean withdrawing your love or commitment. It simply means not imposing your timeline, your vision, or your expectations on how the relationship should unfold. Instead of seeking to control every outcome, you create a dynamic of trust where he can engage with you from a place of integrity and authenticity. It's in this space that masculine energy flourishes. A man who feels trusted to take the lead is more likely to step up, to show more love, and to give more of himself because he is not feeling pressured. There's nothing more attractive than someone who is able to act from a place of clarity, not obligation. When there is room for a man's masculine energy to rise, you also create the conditions for deeper emotional intimacy. Paradoxically, the less you try to control, the more he will want to give. The more you give him room to be his full self, the more he will recognize your value as someone who sees him as whole. Your stepping back allows him to step in fully without fear of judgment or expectation. This kind of dynamic creates a safe emotional environment where both partners can show up as their authentic selves. True connection doesn't require constant intervention or emotional labor from one person, it requires a balance. And that balance is achieved by allowing space for both energies to thrive independently without the weight of constant scrutiny. Masculine energy is most potent when it is not caged. It is at its best when it's free to lead, to think, to decide, and to protect. When you step back, you're not giving up your power, you're inviting him to rise into his. And in doing so, you create the conditions for a love that is mutual, grounded, and deeply fulfilling. In relationships, the desire to feel safe emotionally is universal. It's a deep, inherent need that both partners crave, yet the way to achieve emotional safety is often misunderstood. Too often, people think that emotional safety can be built through clever tactics, by saying the right things at the right time, or by anticipating the other person's needs perfectly. These strategies might work for a moment, but they don't build lasting emotional security. Trust is the true foundation of emotional safety, and without it, tactics will only create temporary patches, not real connections. Trust is not something that can be faked or manipulated. It's something that is earned over time through consistent actions, vulnerability, and the courage to be open. When two people trust each other, they create a secure space where both can be themselves without fear of judgment, rejection, or emotional harm. This kind of safety allows people to express their deepest feelings, their vulnerabilities, and their flaws without the fear of being exploited or misunderstood. Trust isn't about always knowing the right thing to say or doing the perfect thing in every moment. It's about showing up with authenticity and consistency. Emotional safety doesn't come from trying to control how someone feels. You can't force someone to feel safe or loved through a list of carefully crafted behaviors or by following a playbook of what you think they want to hear. Tactics are transactional. They are designed to get a specific result, usually a temporary one. They might create a moment of comfort or connection, but they don't go deep enough to form the kind of emotional safety that will last. When you rely on tactics, you're not allowing the other person to see the real you. Instead, you're hiding behind a facade, hoping that your actions will be enough to keep the other person from questioning or doubting your intentions. True emotional safety comes from vulnerability, from the willingness to show up without pretense or armor. This means being willing to share your fears, your insecurities, and your deepest truths. When one person is brave enough to do this, the other person is given the opportunity to respond in kind, creating a ripple effect of openness and mutual understanding. Emotional safety grows when both people trust that they can speak their truth without fear of being shut down, dismissed, or used against them. One of the greatest challenges in relationships is navigating the moments when conflict arises. It's easy to trust someone when everything is smooth sailing, but true trust is tested when things get tough. It's in these moments that you see whether the emotional foundation of the relationship is strong. If trust has been built over time, both partners will know that even in the midst of disagreement, they are safe to express their emotions without fear of retaliation or emotional manipulation. They will know that their partner's love is unconditional and not contingent upon winning an argument or being right. When trust is lacking, people begin to use tactics, deflection, manipulation, silence, guilt tripping, hoping to protect themselves from emotional harm. But this only deepens the divide. When you feel unsafe, your instincts are to protect yourself, and that often leads to behaviors that erode trust even further. You might start hiding your true feelings, pretending to be something you're not, or saying things you don't mean just to get through a difficult moment. While these tactics might shield you temporarily from emotional vulnerability, they never create real safety. Instead, they build walls between you and the person you care about. The relationship becomes less about mutual trust and more about trying to control the narrative, and that's when disconnection sets in. Trust is not just about honesty, it's about consistency. It's about knowing that your partner will be there when you need them, that their words and actions align, and that they will support you even when things are difficult. This consistency builds the foundation for emotional safety because it allows both partners to relax into the relationship. They don't have to constantly worry about hidden motives or whether they will be judged for their feelings. When trust exists, both people feel free to be themselves, knowing that they are accepted and loved for who they truly are. The beauty of trust is that once it is established, it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. The more you trust someone, the safer you feel, and the more emotionally vulnerable you become. This vulnerability in turn strengthens the bond between you, making it easier for the other person to trust you in return. It creates a space where both partners can show up fully without pretense or fear. They can argue without animosity, communicate without manipulation, and love without conditions. It's important to note that building trust isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous process that requires both partners to show up consistently. Small actions matter. Being reliable, being present, being honest in everyday moments, these are the things that build the foundation for deep emotional safety. It's not about grand gestures or perfect actions, but about creating a space where both partners can relax and be themselves without fear of judgment or emotional harm. Trust and emotional safety are the bedrock of any lasting relationship. Without them, even the most well-meaning tactics will fail to create the connection you're hoping for. Only through genuine vulnerability and consistent actions can you build a relationship where both people feel free to love fully, without fear, without manipulation, and without games.